The fallout from City Skylines Economy Patch 2.0 is somewhat disastrous, both short-term and long-term for your cities. But there were also some great positive steps for the game, not only at the back end, but also with some really appreciated quality of life improvements, like, for example, the upgrading and expanding of the buildings, the services system. However, there are some emerging issues at play. So let's take a look at those first of all. Obviously, there's the death wave. We talked about this in my previous video. It should be short-term, but with it, of course, comes some flow-on effects, like your roads being crammed full of desperate ambulances and hearses as well. In the background, the changes to demand were also very noticeable. Some of them probably bringing at least temporary issues to your cities. You'll find that you'll have to build things in a different way, and at levels that you haven't done before. Residential places in particular aren't likely to be favoured, at least in the short term. But the issues? Well, they don't stop there. Bugs have been reported, the most prominent ones being around office workers, a bug limiting the number of people in the building to but 5 employees. And those lonely employees aren't alone in the issues front. There was also a fairly commonly reported one around homeless people becoming criminals and engaging in an absolute crime spree. Of course, we're talking about different issues here with different natures. Those two are bugs and will likely be patched out in the somewhat near future. And the death waves that we talked about earlier should, with a bit of an asterisk, be fairly short term. Though it might take a while, at least in my experience, for your city to actually play through the simulation. Things in this city are chugging along very slowly in dealing with the changes. And of course, the biggest blow will be felt in your budget. The game now made much more challenging and also much more debt-inducing. Your expenses have likely shot up. And one of the big ones will be what I've called the tile dilemma. What the heck does that mean? Well, tiles have changed, and the very way that the game calculates their costs in particular has changed. So I thought maybe a better way to explore this would be to jump actually into a new city, where I can ditch the death wave and the other sort of hangovers of a previous game, and actually just explore what's going on. Start anew, start afresh. One of the first things I observed, by the way, was that money is hard now. So success for Economy Patch 2.0. It is certainly much harder to grow a city, especially early on if you want it to be profitable. Delving into the detail a little deeper, City Skylines 2 has been fairly quiet on most of the things we've discussed already. Fairly quiet on those 2 bugs in particular. Though, like I say, probably they've got fixes in the work. However, the tile upgrades featured on their Twitter, X, whatever Elon is calling his 15th child today, as a prominent feature with a developer diary. And so we're going to delve into that now and see what Colossal Order are saying, as well as me sharing my own experiences. Back to this city. As you can see, things aren't looking so good, but actually the budget is fairly close to being in balance, right? I'm running a little bit in the red. I might need to get a loan, just like the good old days back in City Skylines 1. But once I purchase the tiles, things change, and that's because of the new costs associated with these bad boys. Here it is in slow motion, me purchasing the tile. You'll notice there's a one-off cost down the bottom as I go to purchase it, as well as an upkeep cost in the middle. The upkeep cost in these cases is roughly half of the initial purchase price, but every month. And here you can see it playing out on that budget screen before, and the city's grown a little bit, and as you can see, my expenses, my debt woes, continue to grow, with the tile upkeep roughly at 30,000. Important to note, the first 9 tiles don't have an upkeep, so it's only when you expand. So what do Colossal Order have to say? Well, the new administrative land cost, again, doesn't apply to the first 9 tiles, they don't have a cost, but every single other one does. It's a percentage value of the tile purchasing cost, and the percentage values change. And we'll take a look at those in just a moment. A couple of other things they noted is that these changes have come through. Why? Well, because the game wasn't challenging enough. Particularly, they say, in the later game, as cities grow and expand. The upkeep cost to map tiles was a good way, they claim, to pace the gameplay, again, especially towards the end. So, In reality, what does it mean? Well, map tile costs are affected by what is available to them: buildable land and resources. So if a tile has a lot of water, it'll be fairly cheap, and if it has a lot of land and resources, obviously it's going to be more expensive. Unfortunately though, it's not quite that simple. It's not just how much value is here, and here's a monthly fee associated to that. They shared a graph, in my opinion, one that wouldn't pass even Statistics 101. The upkeep cost isn't fixed. It increases as the size of your city increases. It doesn't have anything to do, really, with the value of the tile, apart from what we've already discussed, the underlying foundations of how much it's worth. So it's not what's built on the tile, but rather how many you have. Early map tiles have a lower upkeep cost, but as more are purchased, the upkeep per tile increases, affecting all of their upkeep costs. So, that's the way the game is built now. What are some ways that you could perhaps lessen the blow a little bit? Some solutions to the tile dilemma. There are some obvious ones in the game settings. Unlimited money obviously will do it, but also unlock map tiles. If you don't want to have completely unlimited money, just go unlock map tiles. They will be free, and you'll have access to all of them. There are also some mods, by the way, that you could toggle on and off to buy or remove tiles that you may have already purchased. Just an extra for experts tip there. Moreover, make sure that you have import city services on. Just another quick tip, as that has changed in the patch update. But bouncing back to the task at hand, how is another way that we could deal with this problem? Well, honestly, there isn't much more, except for those options which Colossal Order have explicitly recommended inside of their developer diary. The only other way will be to expand your city and to build additional tax income. Perhaps raising your taxes, slashing the budget service fee costs, or building more industry, perhaps filling in the blanks. And for now, in the current version of Cities 2, that is all. That's all of the solutions. Start a new city, turn on unlimited money, change the number of tiles you own, or build more. So what happens next then? Thankfully, Colossal Order have provided a relatively small and fairly brief update about what's going to happen next, and like I say, fairly straightforward. Of course, I expect, as you should expect, the bugs that are taking place to be patched out. Again, like I mentioned earlier in the video, they haven't explicitly mentioned them, but they have constantly mentioned that they are open to feedback, that they are listening to feedback, and they are working on it. So I expect that those things will change. The broader balance around tiles might also change in time. We don't really know. They say, thanks so much for the feedback. We've heard from people who love the tile changes, people who don't. We wanted to provide some balance, a slightly more difficult game. We're listening to your feedback, but bear in mind that changing the game takes time. It takes time to iterate features. My opinion is that most of the difficulty balancing is very much appreciated, and most of the quality of life improvements are too, and I think once the bugs are ironed out, Cities 2 will generally be left in a much better state than it was before Economy 2.0. So what do you think? Did they go too far? Did they punish the balance? Let me know in the comments below, and I will see you wonderful people next time.